Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Song again, and I'm here today with one of our graduates, class of 2020, Jehane Djedjro, and she is going to be my guest as we speak about and discuss about her college experience, what she's been doing the last 4 years, and where the life's going to take her to. So, sweetie, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody about who you are? Who you are? Oh my gosh! I mean, you've been at our school for NCA for 12 years, right? So go ahead and start from there when you were a little tiny tot to where you are today. Would you go ahead?
My name is Jehane Djedjro. I'm currently a senior at American University studying international relations with a specialization in global inequality and development in the sub-Saharan African region. I'm originally from Koreatown, so born and raised in Koreatown, still fluent in Korean actually, which has taken me into a few interesting places, which has been really great. But I currently also sit on the board of trustees at my university as a student trustee, and I'm also a intern at the African Development Bank, an intern at APCO Worldwide, which is like a global consulting firm. And then I am also a student worker for the Office of Alumni Relations on the Multicultural and Affinity Engagement team at my university. So yeah, with all the positions and the hats and all of that, I'm still as busy as I was in high school, which has taken me very far, but I have learned how to rest finally. So I'm very happy to say that, I get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day, which is nice.
And you've, if I missed it, you've also been involved with the board of trustees at the, American University as well.
Yeah, so I have been the student trustee for the last year. But my term is longer than usual because the former student trustee graduated a semester early. So I started my term a semester early. So I get the full 1.5 years, and I'll be finishing out my term this May when I graduate.
Well, that's not a common position, right? Students don't become part of the trustee or even as a student trustee. So tell me a little bit about that. How did you get involved in that?
So I would say that that was really, to me, that was like a testament of all of my hard work. Since my freshman year, I have been a part of like the Residence Hall Association, the African Students Organization, the Kennedy Political Union, and I've held different executive board positions. So finally, when there was an opportunity, so the former student trustee is my friend, and she told me, "Hey, I think you'd be good for this position. Just apply." It was an easy application. You upload your resume, kind of talk about what makes you a good candidate for the student trustee, because as student trustee, I represent the undergraduate students, the graduate students, and the law students at
Wow.
American University. So it's definitely interesting because I am an undergraduate student, so I see things from the undergraduate perspective, but I've been able to talk to like the graduate leadership council president and also the bar association president. So being able to show all of the leadership skills and the leadership positions that I had my freshman and sophomore year really gave me the ability to have that like open-mindedness and full university perspective that helps me in my current position. So it was very much
Okay.
an easy application. But it was 2 rounds of interviews. So I think that was the hardest part of it. I had to talk to the students, and then it was talking to the some board members, and that I
Sure.
think was pretty daunting because it was some pretty difficult questions.
Okay. So let's go back even to where we started. You
Mhm.
started NCA as a first grader or a kindergartner?
No, I was a first grade. I was 5 years old.
This is when we didn't have kindergarten, right?
No, we didn't have kindergarten because I was at
Okay.
Come and See with Joyce teacher, and she
Yeah,
was the one that recommended us to New Covenant Academy, and then
right.
that started the whole
Okay.
12 years.
Gotcha. Now, I remember there was an epiphany or awakening moment when you realized, though you were born and raised in Koreatown, Los Angeles, that you weren't a Korean. What
Yeah,
wasn't there a moment you either cried or you were saddened that
yeah,
I
and
remember that story just I mean if I have to remember certain stories about you, and I got a lot of stories about you that I won't be talking about today, but at least I remember that one.
yeah. Yeah, my mom likes to remind me about it. It was definitely that epiphany. I would say maybe middle school. I want to say elementary school, where,
Yeah.
I come home crying one day and I'm like, I want to be Korean. I want to be Korean. Why am I not Korean? And my mom had to sit me down and say, no, you're not Korean. You're everything else really but Mexican, because you're Persian, you're Mexican, you're Ivorian, but you're not Korean. And I think that was probably the first time I ever heard such like gut-wrenching news, because I mean, I was at NCA, all of my
Right.
classmates were Korean, my teachers were Korean, we were eating Korean food, we were celebrating like Chuseok and all of the holidays. So
Sure.
to me, culturally, I always tell people, culturally, I'm very Korean.
Right.
Just, I guess, ethnically, nationality wise, I'm not Korean. And I've accepted it now. I've definitely accepted it now. But it's definitely a part of my identity that I always like to like tell people. I see it as like my superpower, like the hidden secret that I have.
Now the secret power became fully manifested when you were working at CGV, right?
Yeah,
Behind the counter as
yeah.
a part-time. Tell
Mhm.
me about that story.
Working at CGV was definitely fun. And then COVID hit, so then
Yeah.
I lost
Right,
the
right.
job there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was the first time where I was at, it's a Korean movie theater. I'm there. I remember it was the opening for, I'm forgetting what movie, but it was the opening of a movie. And there I had a Korean coworker, and then it was me at the cashier, and
Right.
everybody lined up for him. And it wasn't until he's telling them like, go over there, she speaks Korean, that they started coming, and then everyone kind of started moving into my line because they just kind of wanted to talk to me.
Yeah.
It was like, hello, how are you doing, all in Korean. And it always shocks people to this day. Anytime I go to like a Korean barbecue, I start speaking Korean. I'll be like Samyong, and they're like, what is going on? And
They're
they
like,
give me
excuse me,
free
what did you
food.
say? Say
No,
that again.
exactly. Exactly. And they give me free food. They and honestly, this it's been so beneficial. And part of the reason why I'm in the internship that I am in now is because one of the board members, her name is Marjorie Krause. She's the CEO founder of APCO, and we were at a board retreat last August, and we were just talking. I said, yeah, I grew up in Koreatown. I speak Korean. I can read, write, speak, understand it. And she kind of looked at me and she said, we've been looking for a Korean speaker at my company because we have a project. We have a big client that we
Wow.
need all hands on deck. We have a Korea team in Korea, but we don't have someone in America. So are you
Wow.
interested? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So that kind of
Yeah, sure,
started.
why not?
Yeah, I was like, cool. Like I have a million other things, but this could potentially help me out. So I started every day, 4 hours a day, looking at, I was basically doing a Korean news scan. So I'd go on like
Hmm.
Naver, I'd go, because this was when Busan was trying to do the expo. So
Okay.
a lot of the news scanning was seeing like, what is Korea doing? Like just things like that, for one of the
Yeah.
clients that we had. But I mean, I was on Naver, I was on Korea Times, I was just on different new Korean news channels, and I basically had to report what I was seeing in the news. So
Wow.
the Korean skills definitely helped me, but it also kind of strengthened my skills as well, because I always said that I don't talk about like Korean politics specifically because of the language. I never felt like I made it to that super super advanced level of Korean, so I was like learning as I went. So that I would say that, as much as crazy as times where I think sometimes growing up and being learning and assimilating into that like Korean culture, it's definitely been one of the best parts of, I would say, like my growing up. And I still use all of the skills that I've learned to this day.
When you were when you were at NCA, you participate in volleyball, you were with the student council, leadership. You've done a whole lot of things at our school. I still remember your team as one of the few teams in our girls volleyball season that made it to the postseason. We
Mhm.
lost that small team from Santa Barbara, or way up there, right? Up in
Yeah,
Central California. But gosh, I think it went down to the last 2 points in the fifth set, if I remember correctly.
I was
Yeah.
tired.
Now, then you made a decision to go to the American University, and the story is that your mom and dad met there, right? I
Yeah, yeah.
remember that. And I did my Oxy and DC program at American University at the Tenley campus. So I'm somewhat aware of the American University setting. Tell me about your first semester or a day or a week when you got there. What was that like? Was it like the dream come true, or what was it like?
It was online. So my first semester was online
Oh,
because this was
that's right.
during
That's right. That's
COVID.
right.
Yeah, it was during COVID. So I was 3 hours behind. So a lot of the classes I strategically made my schedule so all of my classes were in the afternoon because then it was morning in
Right.
LA time. So I had one. So my first semester was great. It was like the basic classes, I would say, and that's one thing that I talked to a lot of my classmates and my friends about, and some of my roommates, where I did international baccalaureate, I did IB. So going to college, it was not as rigorous as some of my classmates thought that it was. It was a lot of like papers, and I was like, well, I did my TOK essay and I did my HL
Yep.
essays, like this is fine, like 1 to 2 pages, that's not really that's
Now,
not.
now I didn't put you up to say this, right? You need to make this
No,
clear that
no,
I didn't put you up to say this. This is a live
no.
video that we're not scripting this thing, but that's something that I've always been talking to the parents and prospective students about, right?
Mhm.
How thoroughly and far better you'll be prepared to take on the rigors of college
It's
as the
true.
result of having finished the IB program or gone through it.
It's true because a lot of it was critical thinking. A lot of it was writing the essays,
Yeah.
writing out why this is your answer, and the results and like your reasoning. That was a lot of it. So I did my writing class and I actually tested into advanced writing. So rather
Wow.
than taking 2 semesters of writing, I took one writing.
Like typical freshmen would do.
Yeah, like typical freshmen, they do writing one and then writing two in the second semester, but I did advanced writing. My final exam was a 13-page paper on anything I wanted to. And I mean that took me a week because I had the foundation. So I'm as annoying and as hard as IB was, it has prepared me so much for university. So having that freshman year, that first semester online, it was actually better for me
Yeah.
because I wasn't ready to go home. Just I wasn't ready to leave home just yet. I didn't really want to go to DC just yet. So I had that extra semester with like my little sister with my family, and it was nice personally. And then the spring semester they did something called the mini master. So basically they opened up the freshman dorms for students to come. You pay a small tuition for housing, but your classes were still online, and I didn't have a roommate. And my
Yeah.
parents said, "Yeah, if that's what you want to do,
Yeah.
then yeah, you should definitely go." So I moved. I moved in February, but I had actually moved to the DMV area in January because that semester I had an 8 a.m. economics class, 8 a.m. DC time, which meant 5 a.m. LA time. So after the first two classes, I said, I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. anymore. And one of my best friends, Marianne, her family was basically said, we have a room in our basement, come and live with us
Wow.
before
Wow.
you move onto
Yeah.
campus. So I moved in January and I lived with them, I would say, for like a whole month
Hmm.
before I moved onto campus. But my parents came, they helped me move in. It was definitely very emotional because like you know how my dad is. I'm the
I
first
know. I know.
daughter, the oldest daughter, and I was finally moving to university. So I would say that since then, actually, I haven't really been to LA. I have managed to get
I know you've been basically living a DC
yeah,
life, even summer
yeah.
internships, job, everything.
Mhm.
So
And I would
after
say
you actually set foot on campus and students are coming back, tell me
mhm.
what was that like?
it was a huge culture shock because it's DC. Everyone already was talking about the internships that they got, the internships that
Yeah,
they had. And I was,
especially American University folks.
yeah, like that is one of our biggest stereotypes that we're so serious. We want to work on the Hill, we want to work in the White House, things like
Yeah,
that. So coming back, I will say COVID kind of ruined the social skills, I would say, because a lot of students were coming back. You're meeting your friends and roommates that you saw online, and
mm,
you realize that people aren't necessarily the same in person as they are online.
right,
So it
right.
was definitely hard to break past those communication barriers and really make the genuine connections. I was one of the students that I would go on all of my floors and I'd knock on everyone's door and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm Jahan. I'm a freshman here," and try and get everyone out. And I talk about this in a lot of the speeches that I give for my university, but it's like that sense of community. I've
Yeah,
always wanted it. So I went out and sought it for myself. And that
yeah.
was going up to people and just being like, "Hey, like I definitely have seen you on a class on Zoom. How are you? This is my Instagram if you ever want to hang out." Or it was just knocking on their door and being like, hey, like I live on the same floor, my name's Jahan, and just going from there. So I would
Yeah,
say that
you,
I
you
really,
know, on that note, what I get from not only from you but other students of NCA is that we're such a small school. A lot of people think that going to a larger school is going to somehow put our graduates at some kind of a disadvantage. But I think there's a lot of confidence in our students. And as you said about like having done the IB program, and since we treat each other like family members, we don't really like consider other people, irrespective of race or gender, or, ethnicity or what have you. I think we have a tendency to really reach out to people and be very friendly. I
oh
mean, would
yeah.
you say that what I'm saying is pretty accurate of not only yourself but other your classmates as well?
No, definitely. And I think it also is like living in LA. Like you go outside, you say, hey, how are you? Good morning. Over here, I remember I would say hey to people and they look at me like I'm
Yeah, the
crazy.
DC folks aren't friendly.
No, they're not friendly at all. They're not friendly at all. But I've definitely I've kept the friendliness. It doesn't matter whether it's an old person or a
Right.
young person. I will say hi if it's a Saturday morning. If I just
Yeah.
wake up and the birds are chirping, I'm gonna say hi. But I
Yeah.
would say that I knew everybody in my class. I knew everybody in my class. I knew everybody in the class below me, the classes below me at NCA. So going to university, I knew that it was just going to be NCA on a bigger scale. It's
Yeah.
just a different way of tackling it. I
Yeah.
never thought that I would come to university and not have people know who I am. That I feel like that's just always been the person that I am, whether it's honor council or student council or
Right.
cultural club or the volleyball team. Like I have just always connected with people, and that
Right.
didn't
And
change
you
my life
speak
university.
and in those experiences and capacities, you've also connected not only with your peers and upperclassmen and the underclassmen, but with teachers. I mean, we are, I mean, you and I, you, Pastor Ted, all the teachers, we're
Oh yeah,
conversing every day. We're like daughter, son, that kind of a relationship where we're talking to our students not as children, but as like, hey, like as an individual, someone who's going to be a grown up soon, so that we need to build these skills up. And I think to a certain degree, the ability to work with adults, because I hear about earlier, you mentioned all the experience that you had to not only talk to people your age, but you had to talk to leaders. You had to talk to people who are making decisions. You're talking to people who are CEOs, trustees, and you have to talk to them with the language and skills and confidence that they want to see.
exactly. And I would say it's funny. So I have two funny stories with that. So, high school, I knew everybody and that didn't stop. So when I got to university, I anyone that I've talked to, they always say, Jahan, you're very mature for your age. The way you like carry yourself is very different. And I always owe that to the education that I got growing up. And people see it in the way I speak, in the way I talk about how I've grown up. They say that there's a level of maturity, and I always connect it to the Christian background that I have, because
Yes.
personally, that is one of the things that because I'm rooted in Christ, because I have made it that Christ is like my center. Coming to university, that I was kind of thrown into this world where I don't have that Christian education.
Yeah.
I don't have Bible class. I
You're
no
thrown
one's
into
forced
you're
the
thrown into the
real world.
lion's den, the secular
Yeah,
culture. Yeah.
exactly. No one is forcing me to go to chapel. So
Right.
I'm sitting here Sunday. I'm like, do I go to church? No one's really forcing me to go to church. So there were those like temptations. However, I will say that, being in the student trustee role, I've been able to navigate it through my faith and through the idea that, I have a bigger purpose. So with that, last summer I went to Botswana with my internship. I was working at Corporate Council on Africa. We
That's
hosted the
right.
15th U.S. Africa Business Summit in partnership with the government of Botswana. And I met the president. I met the Botswanan president. I saw the president from Zimbabwe. So there were a lot of like official, like African governmental officials, but also American governmental officials. And I wasn't nervous to talk to them. If anything, I saw them as a person, but I went up to them and was like, hello, my name is Jehane Djedjro. And that, like, the networking was happening. And I wasn't scared. I was very confident in having the ability to connect with older people at a younger age actually got me to this point now where I don't see myself necessarily as a child, but I see myself as a person connecting with other people. It's
Yeah.
not, I don't necessarily see the dynamics of like age. I know that there's specific age gaps and age dynamics and intergenerational things that are at play, but it has never shied me away from being able to go up to somebody that's older to have a conversation with them. And it's actually been a learning experience because having those conversations have given me a lot of advice. I've gotten a lot of mentors through it, and
Sure.
it has really, I would say it's really helped me because, and you know, when you're in middle school, when you're in high school and you have Principal Song telling you something, you're just like, oh my God, like he's telling you the same thing over and over. Like, we know, we know. I got to that age where I'm like, oh, Principal Song was right. Or it'd be like, oh, my mom was right. My parents were right. And I remember calling my
Yeah.
parents, I think it was my sophomore year, and I said, you know, you guys raised me very well. A lot of a lot of the lessons that you guys have taught me, I'm finally starting to see it. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for treating
Wow.
me and raising me the way you guys did, but also at the same time, it was like, they were right. Like, dang it.
Dang it, they were right, right? I mean, you know, I know I saw you last year when I visited DC with our
Mhm.
eighth graders. You know, I'm coming again with the
Yes,
eighth
I'm
graders again. So
excited
we're
for
gonna get
that.
together, we're gonna have a meal. But I'm so proud of you, so proud of your confidence, your ability to connect with other people, the things that you accomplished. I mean, it's a long list of things that you've done in college, and there's so much more you could do it in life. But you going back to talk about your Christian rootedness, the things that I try to put into the student's heart about loving Christ and loving other people, um, doing things the right way, making the right decisions, doing things by the standard, the truth that we need to hold on to. I mean, in DC, you run into all kinds of people, right? All kinds of people with different lifestyle, different ethos, different philosophy, but you're like that, what I would describe as a fish, a healthy, lively fish that's living in the ocean water. You know what I mean? There's life in you. There's no saltiness in you, although the world itself is salty and things die in that kind of environment in most cases. But we're as persons of faith, we're in this world, though we're not of the world. And as we continue to love the Lord and love people and strive forward, God has a way of opening more doors. And I can't wait to see which doors that he's going to open for you so you could continue to go forward.
Yeah.
Um, we're quickly running out of time here, and I wish we could, we're going to need to do another session, if not this week or sometime soon. But what would you tell somebody, let's say someone who's in our middle school, okay, a fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grader, or even high schooler, who's thinking about, gosh, I feel like I'm stuck in molasses, like honey, I'm not moving forward. I feel like I'm same thing all over again. Long ago, I've seen a cartoon strip of one of our eighth graders who said, "Yeah, I'm graduating." Then the next frame was walking back to NCA high school, saying, "Oh my God, it's the same school."
Yeah.
But I know it feels like that, but it's not like that. This
No.
is a training ground, right? This is a time in which you go through so much of repetition so you could build your character qualities. What would you say to those kids, and not using my words, but as somebody who's relatable to them, what would you say to them?
I would say two things. I would say the first thing would be not to live in the present, to live in the moment, because I so badly wanted to graduate. I so badly wanted to go to college, and then I got to college and I saw the reality of the world, and I saw the reality of my life, and it made me miss being in high school. I missed the discipline. I missed the you're in class from 9 to 10. I missed all of those things because I moved to DC basically by myself, and I had
Mhm.
to navigate that, and I had to stay organized. I didn't have somebody knocking at my door at 7 a.m. telling me to wake up, or else I would miss the bus, or I would miss my ride to school. So
Right.
I definitely wish that I had lived in the moment more rather than
Mhm.
always looking at what's next, what's next, what's
Yeah.
next. And I would say the second thing is to stay disciplined and to really learn how to be able to make decisions for yourself, but also to listen to the people around you, because discipline is super important in college. I think, and you always used to say this about homework where, or like testing, where homework and tests aren't necessarily to test you. It's really to test, it's not to test your smartness, it's to test your discipline and obedience.
Faithfulness.
And faithfulness. And I really, really have lived by that, because I don't see things as, oh, I have to do it. I see it as, if I want to go to the next level, I have to be able to finish this, and I want to do it as best as I can. And so I know in middle school, sometimes I just felt like it was so much homework or it was so much work. But then I got to college and I'm like, no, 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 this is a lot of homework. And this is a lot of work, because I
Yeah.
was balancing working jobs,
Yeah.
having social
Yeah.
life, hanging out, leading clubs, being on executive boards, things like that. And
Yeah.
it was having the discipline and the ability to know that when I walked into a classroom, that I was organized, I was
Yeah.
disciplined, I was able to form the connections with the professors, I was able to feel like I could speak up in class, because I had practiced that, and it was like instilled in me from
Sure.
first grade, from
Right.
fifth grade.
Yeah.
That, and I would say that looking back at it now, all of the things that I was told, all of the times I was getting in trouble for talking too much in class or for not doing my homework correctly, like all of that, I see it now and I'm like, wow, like my parents did very well in raising me, but the school I went to also did well in the sense of like equipping me. I'm trying to remember the school motto. I always forget it, but enable,
Ed
equip,
Educate, enable, and equip the Christian leaders of tomorrow.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you got it. You're in the ballpark.
But yeah, I mean that motto I look back at, and I was looking at the school motto and all of that, just looking at the Facebook, and I saw it and I was like, this is basically, I would say that I was enabled, I was educated, and I was equipped to be the Christian leader of tomorrow. Because,
Yeah.
coming to university, you don't really talk about faith. You don't really talk about religion unless you're at church. And I think that's one of the things that's very difficult, navigating a very secular world and seeing your position as a Christian in a secular world. But it's been a lot of self-study, self-preservation, and prayer and faith that has really gotten me to this leader. At my school we call it a change maker, like I'm this Christian change maker. So I combine both of my educations, and I
Yes.
say that I'm a Christian change maker, and a lot of the things that I do is because I have that higher sense of purpose, that God has
Yes.
placed me on this earth to do good things and to show that we were created in his image, and giving that grace and that trust and that faithfulness, the same thing that he gave to us. So that's what I would tell students. Like, the real world is tough. The real
Yeah.
world is
But
tough.
you're in the training ground. You're in the
Yeah,
training ground. It's being
exactly.
prepared for the future. And I could tell that I'm so happy. I'm happy for you. I feel like I've done something right, working with you, blessing you and teaching you, and you're a blessing. Uh, and I wish I'm gonna have to reschedule because we're running out of time for this episode, but we're gonna have to reschedule
Yeah,
and have a separate session about what lies ahead.
yeah,
Where's God taking you? Where are you going with this thing? But for those of us who are joining this podcast, uh, this gal is our product. She is some, one of our graduates, and the way she contributed to the school community while she was here in the athletics and leadership positions, to what she has done at university level, and all the things that you've heard, and go back and listen to the things that she was doing at the early part, what she said about the leadership and things that she did, jobs, internships. Boy, there is so much ahead of her, and this is the kind of product. This is the kind of alum that NCA is focused on developing. So, sweetie, I want to thank you so much, and I look so much forward to having that meal with you in what, around April 15th. We'll be there. So
I'll be in
make sure
DC.
you block that week out, okay? We're gonna get together and have some meal together. All right.
Thank you.